Hello, world. My next guest is about to dive into the world of employee advocacy, the value of it, and why it's so absolutely unique at every organization. We are going to zoom in and get a bit more intimate when it comes to tackling the great debate of gamification in an advocacy program. I mean, is it necessary? Should advocates be incentivized? Or should advocates simply be participating as part of their job? To discuss it all, please join me in welcoming to the show Yara Malalane, Customer Success Manager here at Octopost. Yara, are you ready to get radically transparent with me?
I'm so excited. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's been my goal to get you on this show for quite some time, if I'm going to be radically transparent with you, because when it comes to advocacy, you might just be my go-to for a lot of my questions. So I've got to ask, I mean, you're a customer success manager at Octopost. What's the best part of getting to help Octopost customers on the daily?
I think that there are many things about Octopus that make it really fun, but I think for me, it has been helping people understand technology. I think the technology sometimes can be this really daunting and complex thing. And as a customer success manager, your job is really to bridge the gap between the technical product and the ultimate value that you provide to your customer. So when we have that proud moment where customers are realizing the value that they signed up for, it makes the day-to-day even more exciting.
Well, if that doesn't make you sound like the world's best customer success manager, I don't know what does. And I know that our customers and our entire organization would be lost without you. So thanks so much for joining me today. We are going to be diving into the world of employee advocacy. And if we literally unpacked every element, we'd probably be here for days, right? It's such a
Hours.
fascinating, interesting uh, initiative across many different organizations. But when I think out loud about employee advocacy, I need to ask you, Yara, what on earth is keeping you up at night professionally when it comes specifically to employee advocacy?
I think a lot of the challenge when it comes to employee advocacy, as marketers, we get it, we understand the entire sort of premise of employee advocacy, but getting the buy-in of the employees and getting people to be engaged in the program in a sustainable way is definitely something that keeps me up at night. And also measuring that success. What is employee advocacy? What are you trying to get out of it? Is it brand awareness? Is it employer branding? Is it conversions and lead generation? What is driving this growth? And how are you then going to be presenting it and showing the impact of it back to the rest of the team? And so a lot of it is making sure that customers are setting themselves up for success in the employee advocacy program. They're defining what those metrics look like, but then also they're able to then talk about the value of those metrics, about the value of social to the rest of the organization, and really position social as a key point in that conversation.
Wow. All right. So I often
I've covered a lot there.
listen, you covered a lot, but it's to be said, right? Launching an employee advocacy program to some maybe actually the easy part, right? It's maintaining it that can be half the battle. In your opinion, right? Once you've found your momentum, you're running your advocacy program. What do you think is the value, right? There's no right answer, but what do you feel is the value of having an employee advocacy program up and running at your organization?
Well, we know that employee advocacy creates amplification of your corporate voice. So being able to bring your employees at the center of that conversation, one, it makes it a lot more human because people trust people. And when someone is hearing an opinion directly from an employee, or whether it's how great it is to work at that organization or how great that product is, it is going to be more trusted if it's coming from someone who is sort of human. So that's one aspect of it, but also the amplification of the corporate voice. When you're tapping into your employees' sort of networks, you are growing exponentially the amount of reach, the awareness that you can bring to the business as well. But also it's another channel as well. I mean, whether it's social selling, whether it's to bring back brand awareness, or again, employee branding, all of these avenues, employee advocacy adds to this. And we know that, I mean, we've run tests here at Octopus where the posts that are generated by employees have a lot more engagement than the corporate ones would do. And so if you can multiply that through your employee advocacy program, then the results are, exponential.
So listen, truth. I mean, everything you said, I'm like nodding my head. But there is something about employee advocacy that I want to tackle head on, because I've heard so many different perspectives, opinions. I've seen so many different programs either doing or not doing. And I want to run it by you, right? So it gamification. And I want to debate it, because I know in one camp, it's okay, how are we going to gamify our employee advocacy program? But for some, it's less about, are we going to gamify and incentivize, and more about how do you create a brand evangelist, and that this is actually and should be part of your employee's day job. So, right, if they're not doing it, they're not doing their job. There should be no incentive. However, right, that it's so split, I think, in the employee advocacy arena. So I want to open it up for debate. What's your take, Yara? Should you be incentivizing an advocacy program, or should it be part of an employee's day job?
Oh, this is a controversial question. It's a very sort of hefty question, and I'll do my best to answer it in two parts. So I think it should be part of your actual day job, but not in the, this is part of your KPI. This is something that you must do, because the minute that you do that, you really take away the fun out of social. One, because social is something fun. We work in social because we enjoy it and it's exciting, and it's about connecting with people. So when you make it part of a day job, in that it's something that's you must post 5 times a week, that becomes a chore for most advocates. And so where I've seen it being done really successfully is where you infuse the culture of that organization with social. So bringing social as a key part of what you do. And I know that we are lucky here at Octopus that we work in social media, we understand marketing and the value of social, but really when you're doing the change management piece of highlighting why social is so important, then it becomes less about convincing someone to be an advocate, but rather they are coming forth and wanting to be your ambassadors. You want to be in a position where they are enriching their own careers, they're sort of realizing the benefit for themselves, and then gamification no longer becomes the focus, right? Because if you have to incentivize your advocates every single time for them to create those posts, then that's not really what's going to make your program sustainable. And so once you infuse it as part of that social culture, you then, gamification is an add-on. It's an extra. It's, oh, if there is a prize, I mean, I'll still be part of the competition, but really I know the value for it. I understand why this is useful, and I should be part of this.
I think you bring up a very important point, right? When your employees see the value that it brings to their career, right? Whether they're at that organization for 5 minutes, 5 days, 5 years, right? If they understand the value of posting across LinkedIn, right, in their own voice, and amplifying the content that their organization is giving them, right, they're essentially creating their personal brand. And that's something, that's a gift, right, that organization
exactly,
and it's something for life. Now, I do know that oftentimes it's sales professionals and customer facing teams on, in Octopost, we call it the advocacy board, or, being participating in an advocacy program. And what do we know about sales as marketeers? We know that every salesperson loves a little friendly competition. So if anybody listening is thinking about incentivizing, how would you recommend either initiating the incentive or starting to gamify and incentivize your program? Kind of give us maybe some of your best pro tips.
Sure. I think, when it comes to incentivizing, there's this big misconception that you need to offer sort of shiny prizes and create a unique budget for your employee advocacy program. And we've found that actually people really appreciate a prize of any kind. And so it's more about the competition, the journey to get there, the sort of the company culture that you're creating out of the employee advocacy program. So I would say start small. Find things that that your advocates are interested in. I know that Octies here at Octopost perform really well, and other brands as well. Their internal merch is a really sort of great way for you to still reward your advocates, but in a way that is also sustainable for you. So I would say start with either a quarterly or a monthly challenge with your advocates. And the beauty of it is that you've got all of these analytics within Octopus. So you can really, whatever metric you choose as a way to measure the success or who's going to be the top advocate of that month or that quarter, you've got all these metrics. And so then you can start to create these programs where you know that, okay, every quarter I will be giving away company merch or any cupcakes. We've seen it all, but pick a prize that your advocates are excited about, because we all have a little bit of a competitive spirit in us. And if you give enough chances in a year for a different advocate to win, then everybody feels part of the journey and can actually feel incentivized in posting and becoming more active on social as well.
Makes sense. And I'm just going to take this a step further because I feel between the two of us, right? You on a daily basis work with hundreds of B2B marketers. And I know that you've seen all sorts of tactics, programs when it comes to gamification. So I want to ask, what's one of the ways of gamification that you've seen working well? And why do you think, can you walk us through the tactic that you've seen? It can be your favorite one, and why you think that specific game or incentive works the best.
I think and I've seen a lot of different programs, but one of my favorite one always comes back to looking at the sort of the specific rewards that you can offer as a business, and then taking that and almost making it a monthly or a quarterly challenge. And in this way, if you're picking and then also making it more of a specific team. So sometimes you by incentivizing different teams, you have the sales team, you have the HR team, getting everybody involved in their own sort of team group enables this entire employee advocacy program to flourish. So I would say, however you're planning your employee advocacy program, come back to what is really important to your advocate, because this will vary from industry to industry. I know that gamification in some businesses works better with whether it's a gift card or it's is a plushie or any other reward. And so coming back to what is important to your advocates, what are the dynamics in that business already when it comes to other competitions, because employee advocacy programs are probably part of yet an existing culture. And so see what works already and apply that to your employee advocacy program.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. One of the ones that I've actually seen that was very unique that I have to call out was a program where they gamified quarterly. So they gave, again, it wasn't like a trip to New York or anything grandiose. It was, a meeting or a lunch or like a team lunch. So the winners quarterly would get that prize that they had in place every quarter. But what I thought was really interesting, they would give these bonus incentives. So, and what this did, which I thought was wild, right? It played off of getting people to form a habit and adoption. Mm-hmm. So they would do these weekly sprints if they had a hero asset. So if there was a new ebook released or a webinar coming up, and they would incorporate mini prizes for individuals if mm-hmm. they shared, that specific ebook, and whoever within that asset had the most, click shares, etc. But I just thought that was fascinating. And again, it literally goes back to your point where you need to, one, understand what's going to motivate your employees to share and what's going to resonate with them as part of the company culture. But I also think it's like, try new things, see what works, see what doesn't, and quarter over quarter, right?
Absolutely.
Not written in stone, like we didn't, sign, our blood signature that we, it's open, and having that ability to kind of change and see as the program ebbs and flows, right? Because we know a program, it will do that. That's natural and normal. And we want to, grow the program, but there's going to be natural waves where people share less, people share more. So I just think having those tools in your tool belt, when it's handy to pull them out. But that was one of my favorites that I've seen.
But also on that, I'd say, it comes back to also the analytics. I think that marketing in general as a discipline is all about coming back to the metrics, coming back to, okay, so if I run this program, what happens? If I offer this other incentive, what happens? And taking that data and applying it for the next time. And so a lot of it will be a combined effort, and it's a long-term effort as well. Employee advocacy doesn't happen overnight. And so you need to put together all these metrics, and you need to put together this entire effort. But it's really gratifying, and the results can, like I said earlier, it can be amazing.
Yara, I will definitely be having you back, because I think we all want to hear more employee advocacy. And like we said at the start, right, this is just one small piece of an overall program, but it's an important one to discuss. I would be lying if I didn't tell you that prior to this interview, I did not take a very deep dive into your LinkedIn profile. I have to say, you are quite the thought leader on LinkedIn. If you could actually share with us something that we cannot find out about professional Yara by simply just looking at your LinkedIn profile.
Something that you cannot find about me. This is interesting, because I think I do like to put my foot forward when it comes to LinkedIn. But I am a published author.
What?
And so and so that is something that you won't be. I have published a collection of poems, and it's something that I do on my spare time. So not so much on the professional side, but it's definitely something that you wouldn't be able to find on my LinkedIn.
Yara, that's fantastic. I've worked with you for so long, and I never knew that. Well, thank you so much for sharing. If we'd like to read some of your poems, or if we'd like to come chat with you about employee advocacy, where is the best place for people to connect with you?
Oh, I'm around everywhere. I mean, LinkedIn, that's definitely a great place to reach me, but also you've got access to me through email. I'm always for a phone call. I mean, if there's a conversation to be had, I'm very much happy to talk to people.
Yara, thank you so much for joining the show and for getting radically transparent about the gamification of employee advocacy.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to the Radically Transparent podcast, brought to you by Octopost, the only social media management and employee advocacy platform architected for B2B. I'm Jennifer Gutman, your host and director of social strategy here at Octopost. And if you love today's show, we'd love if you subscribe, rate, and give a raving review wherever you get your podcasts. For more discussion on B2B social media marketing, be sure to follow Octopost on LinkedIn. And of course, to gain access to all our free social media marketing and employee advocacy resources, head on over to our website, www.octopost.com. Until next time.